Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm the editor-in-chief of National Jeweler. Pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler's webinar series sponsored by RDI Diamonds. Today's session is hosted by Senior Editor Brecken Branstrator and features Eric Fritz, manager at the University of Arizona's Alfie Norville Gem and Mineral Museum. Before I turn it over to Brecken to get the webinar started, I just wanted to let our attendees know that if they have a question, they can type it into the Zoom Q&A box. I'll be back on at the end of the discussion to facilitate the Q&A. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be available on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, January 22nd. Now I will turn it over to Brecken and Eric to get the discussion started. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for that introduction. I'm very excited to be here today with Eric Fritz, who is joining us from Tucson. Eric is overseeing the transition and development of the University of Arizona's Gem and Mineral Museum, of course, to its beautiful new location. So Eric, the university began moving over to your new location last year, is that right?
That's correct. Currently, we have everything in one spot here at the new Pima County Courthouse location.
Fantastic. And it will become the Alfie Norville Gem and Mineral Museum once it's in its final stages. So tell me a little bit to start about how the decision to move the museum came about. I know from what I read that the university has been eyeing expansion for a little while. So why now and how did this come about?
Sure. So it was the perfect opportunity. The university had been looking over probably the past 10 to 12 years to find a new location, a few false starts along the way, trying to populate it somewhere in Tucson. We were actually approached by Pima County, who had decided they wanted to make a cultural center out of the historic Pima County Courthouse downtown. Asking if we would be interested in moving the Mineral Museum, since Tucson is thought of as the center of the gem and mineral world, at least 3 years this time of year. So it was a great opportunity and a great partnership. We got a lead gift we'll talk about shortly, and everything actually just fell into place.
That's awesome. So tell us about this exciting new space and what it allow for your collection and the work your team is able to do.
Sure. So historically, we occupied a mineral museum in the lower level of the Flandreau Planetarium. The Mineral Museum basically started a few years after the University of Arizona. We just celebrated 100 years of having a collection and had it on display at the university. So this transition from 4,000 square feet in the basement of Flandreau to over 12,000 feet of state-of-the-art museum space. We have proposed that this will be and is a world-class museum, and I'm just excited to show that with our viewers today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, so the building is being shared with other cultural things as well around Tucson, you said?
Sure. So there's 2 wings on the main floor of the building, and we occupy the larger wing. Pima County ventured into the museum world and built a Southern Arizona Regional Heritage Center, basically talking about the Tucson, Southern Arizona region, which has been inhabited for over 4,000 years, which is really unheard of. When we think of North America, we think of 1776, but of course the Native Americans were here for over 4,000 years. And so we're really happy to tell that story and just what a rich cultural area that we have here in Tucson.
It sounds incredible. And I know you have some slides that you wanted to share with our audience. Maybe now would be a good time for you to go ahead and share your screen. We'd love to see what that looks like.
Sure, happy to do.
Great.
Can we see what's happening now?
I can see it. Looks great.
So this is the building. I think anyone that's been out for the gem show and wandered around downtown would be familiar. The building was completed in 1929 and is thought to be the most outstanding revival architecture in Southern Arizona.
Gorgeous.
Of course, we had a this is Al's wife, Alfie. They are the originators of the GJX shows. So even if you don't know the Norville name, I think everybody's familiar with GJX.
Yeah.
And Alan's wife had passed away, and he wanted a way to memorialize her. So it was really a perfect blend. As I mentioned, we've always historically been a mineral museum, and part of his gift was to make sure that this was a gem and mineral museum. So we were really, of course, Flandreau is where we were before, and this is what our space looked like. This is about 47 people occupancy, and it looks pretty full. Our new facility, we're rated at 400 people, and even in 25% occupancy when we come out of COVID, we can have up to 100 people at a time. So we're really excited to be able to share this on a much larger scale. Sort of a footprint of the museum, which isn't too exciting, but that's kind of how it looks, divided into 3 galleries. Feel free to interrupt, I'll just ramble on.
No, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Main entry lobby. So what I did this morning, the upper pictures are our renderings that we worked from over a year ago, how we envisioned it would look. The lower right is how it looks today. So as you can see, we're getting very, very close. We had hoped to be complete and populated for today's webinar. We anticipate the build out of the space will be complete in the next 2 weeks, and we will start populating in February and be ready to open sometime late February. We know we probably can't open late February, but we want to be ready when the conditions are right that we're able to just open the door and move on.
Absolutely.
Lobby, so portrait of Alfie, giant Arkansas quartz crystal, which was donated as soon as we announced we were moving into the building.
Wow.
Mineral evolution. So we have a great storyline through the museum. We have 3 galleries. Mineral evolution is a scientific theory that when all the planets in the solar system formed, there were maybe only 50 or 60 minerals. That remains true on all the rocky planets, all the asteroids and meteorites. The only thing different is Earth, which now has over 5,600 minerals. What made that different? And it's sort of a co-evolution with both our geologic processes and life itself. So we're able to share that story through the gallery. Again, this is our rendering, and then this is what it looked like this morning. So I think we've achieved a pretty good goal there. We've got a projection globe in the middle. We've got a lot of things for people to touch and engage.
Yeah.
Again, just where we are, and we're close. When we were ready to populate the cases, we programmed everything that would be on display over a year ago. It's all packed by case, bay, and shelf. So we think we can populate the entire 12,000 square feet in a couple of weeks' time. So we're not really concerned right now with scheduling. And of course, a way to showcase the beautiful minerals that have been part of our collection over 100 years. Next, we move into Arizona. We have one of the largest collections of Arizona minerals, and Arizona has a lot of diversity in its minerals. We also had researchers, particularly of interest to this group, that looked at the early Aztec turquoise mosaics. It was always thought that turquoise was sourced from New Mexico or Arizona. And they actually did isotope analysis 4 or 5 years ago, looking at the strontium and lead content of turquoise to see if we could analyze where it came from, mine specific. And they were actually able to do that very well. The only problem was none of it matched the Aztec turquoise. There was no turquoise in the region of the Aztecs, but there were other copper-bearing minerals, and they were able to determine that the isotopes matched these other minerals close enough that the Aztecs did have turquoise in southeastern Mexico, and those deposits were depleted. So it kind of answered a question. The byproduct is now we have pretty good data for Sleeping Beauty, Kingman, and about 4 mines in New Mexico that potentially could lead to origin determination for turquoise.
Wow,
Always a
that's
big topic of
incredible.
origin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Of course, Bisbee is our claim to fame for mining. The copper deposits led to the Industrial Revolution and why we have what we have today. We recreated one of those caves we're very proud of and have some interactives based on that. Over 330 different minerals found in Bisbee. A few hours north of Bisbee, we have Peridot Mesa, which has 6 minerals known. So why that diversity? And it makes just for a great story.
That is very cool.
And of course, a way to showcase beautiful minerals for the mineral lovers. Modern mining, if it weren't for mining around the world, we wouldn't have a lot of the minerals we have. We wouldn't have a lot of the gem minerals that we're able to fashion and craft into the things we're all with. We also have interactives throughout the museum. This is the first sort of gallery, the Crystal Lab. Of particular interest to this group, we have crystal growth. So we have a simulation of how crystals form. And we also have an interactive where people can grow a quartz, a diamond, or a sapphire. So for example, if they wanted to grow a sapphire, they could click on that and we would give them aluminum and oxygen. They could add a trace element of their choosing. So for example, they could pick titanium and they would end up with a blue corundum, a blue sapphire. So it's a great way to explain cause of color in a very interactive, fun way. And of course, fluorescence is very important for museums. We've taken a little different approach. We've got 3 showcases, one for Arizona minerals, one for worldwide, and one for gems and gemstones. Instead of pushing a button and seeing the black lights come on and the minerals glow, we decided we wanted them to glow all the time. And then they can push a button and get the white light and see that they're really not that pretty without the UV light source.
Yeah.
And then of course, the gem gallery, which is the suspense is probably killing all of our viewers. Overview.
No, tell us. Oh, look at that.
So again, our rendering in the top and then what it actually looks like in the lower right. We have a lot of touchables along this area, the big malachite. And then there's a showcase right adjacent that will showcase beautiful gems and jewelry for each of the touchables. So for this great malachite, we actually have an Intarsia box by Nikolai Medvedev. We also feature jade, sapphire, and labradorite. We have a 57-pound sapphire crystal. We propose that it's the largest sapphire. It's definitely the least attractive sapphire, but then we have a great collection of primarily Montana sapphire jewelry to kind of highlight it.
That's awesome. And how big is that malachite that you showed us there? That big?
That malachite is 395 pounds. It's about 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and a foot thick.
Wow.
And you just can't help but touch it. I touch it every time I walk by, just because it's so wonderful. And then, of course, you know, as I mentioned, we've never been a gem and jewelry museum, and we really don't have any gems and jewelry. They would basically fit in a shoebox. Most of them are not overly attractive. So we have a wonderful partnership with the Somewhere in the Rainbow collection and Shelley Sargent, where they've basically made available their entire collection for our use, and we can just pick and choose and switch things out. They've also introduced us to so many other partners that everyone we've approached has been eager to share in our mission. So we think we've got stuff to show from now till the end of time.
That sounds great. That's what we like to hear. Very exciting. I love that you guys have the mining aspect too, because I feel like that's definitely something that we don't see as much, or at least in the museum. So. Yeah,
it's all interrelated. I mean, we couldn't have one without the other, and it helps us build this story. The story, I think, is what makes this museum very unique. because everything builds on everything else. It's not a bunch of disconnected cases. We maintain that storyline, which is very cool, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned,
And then
oh,
our
I'm sorry, go
second
ahead.
interactive, nope, you go right ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna ask a different question. So please keep on, and I'll ask it later. I don't want to interrupt this part.
Okay, so, and this kind of brings up another question that you were going to ask about gem sciences. So I don't know if you want to take the lead on that one, or.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that the University of Arizona's Department of Geosciences was going to launch the Gem Science track with a focus on the study of gems. So I wanted to know, how the museum was able to promote that new area of study and what your role will be in that.
Sure. And it's a great question. And again, I'm happy to share visually. Early on, I moved to Tucson when I was working with GEMA. I was the manager of North America for GEMA and teaching a lot of the practical lab classes. So understanding the practical components of gem science is something inbred in me. So we made the whole outer area of the gem gallery basically Gemology 101. What is a gemstone? How do gemstones form? How are they cut, polished, fashioned, carved? Which leads to this. This is an interactive where we show how light and gem materials interact. So we've got in the first showcase there, we've got actually color change. So people can alter the light and see the shift in color. We've got chatoyancy, we've got star effect, we've got fluorescence, we've got Schiller effect, and they're all mounted on track balls where the visitor can actually move the stone, watch the effects start, watch the effects go out, watch them move across a stone. The next sort of interactive explains transparent, translucent, and opaque. So we have backlit text. We featured quartz so they can see through it and read perfectly. For transparent, they can see through it blurry for translucent, and they can't see through it at all for opaque. We also threw in a piece of optical calcite so they can start to understand double refraction and doubling of facet edges, if you will. Then we show a prism. We're not sure if young people today really play with prisms like I did when I was a kid, and how light is spread into the spectrum. We also have colored gemstones that can move in front of the prism and show the absorption of all the colors, but what we see in a green stone, a blue stone, and a red stone. We have a spectroscope with an actual stone. It's an OPL teaching spectroscope. So they're actually looking at a real spectrum and then matching it to a red stone. And we also have a simulation of a refractometer with shadow edges. So we've got a singly refractive, a doubly refractive, and an over the limit stone, and then 3 choices. So they can see where that absorption pattern is, and then they can compare it and be able to learn how we use these gem tools. So we're really excited about that.
That is so cool, Eric. I'm dying to go play with these things. It sounds like so much fun.
So again, the outer edges, these are more of our touch platforms, the entrance to what we call the treasury, which is the gem vault, which is the background behind me, as you can see. So we have a lovely backlit ceiling where it looks like you're inside a gemstone looking out through the table.
Cool.
So it's really a cool effect. And so again, our touchables and then our beautiful jewelry and how we anticipate the vault will be programmed.
Awesome.
Again, with gem science, we anticipate teaching the practical component here on site. We were fortunate, Jeffrey Bergman early on donated a trapezie collection for display. He's sort of the father of trapezies. So we've got this huge thing. I started to bring it up today, but there's probably 30 on there, and we've got more than that. It was just all we could fit. He also donated his reference collection, so it gives us a good basis for at least having something to start students out with. I've been asked by the gem science professor to coordinate the practical component. We've worked some with Duncan Pay at GIA as well.
Right.
Their help along the way. So we plan on that being very interactive over time.
And so this whole community space is for the people that are actually enrolled in the gem sciences track.
Absolutely. And then the community as well. We want to offer the same sort of thing, you know, learning to use spectroscope. So we want it to be the community at large, the local community, and the gem science program. Small library, photos of the actual classroom. Seats 24 students. COVID is about 6, so we'll fight that battle when we get there.
Yeah.
Of course, office space on the lower level. This will become a research lab in the future. Of course, high density storage where we can be good custodians of our collection. We also have the opportunity, we call this our little blue room. If you've had the opportunity to visit the blue room at the Smithsonian, invitation only, but we plan on inviting a lot of people. Displays in here as well, beautiful things. We've programmed one entire room for gems and jewelry.
My goodness.
The large room for minerals as well.
Wow, that is so incredible. So very exciting. Looks like you guys have done such a great job. I know everybody on here is just as excited about visiting as I am. I did want to just go back. I think you mentioned this, already some of your highlights, but what special pieces, new pieces, that kind of thing are you really excited to display? And I think you might have a few peeks for us to take a look at.
Sure, I've got a piece or two.
I think, Susan, can we grab the screen back?
Before we do that, I'll lead into the first one.
Okay.
This is a nice big aquamarine. Of course, when you're looking at a photo, it's always hard to get perspective. But this was cut. This was Brazilian aqua. It's a very famous piece now. And it was cut by the Moonsteiners. And the finished product was donated to the Smithsonian a couple years ago. So you might recognize the Dom Pedro on the left side of the screen. On the right was the largest stone cut from the remaining part of that crystal. And it was cut, of course, by the Moonsteiners, a very classic cut by them, and mounted by Susan Helmich. It has a fancy French name, which I won't embarrass myself, but it basically translates to the Prince, and it was acquired by the Somewhere in the Rainbow collection. So that's one thing that, again, it's all about the story, as we know, and it's becoming even more so within the industry. So now stop sharing, and I'll just show you. This is the actual piece.
My gosh. And so how big is that one, that piece, part of it?
I don't know. It's this big.
It's gorgeous.
I didn't pull a lot of the data
That's okay.
for any of the pieces because I just wanted to tease people. If you want to learn more, you have to come and visit.
There you go. That's perfect. I'll be there.
We're loaned this past week. We're always concerned with gemstones. We want it to be a 5 carat. We don't want it to be a 4.95.
Right.
So we got a piece that the GIA appraisal basically listed as larger than what it did. This piece was recut because there were a few little issues with it. It was originally 1,500 carats. Now it's 1,400 and some odd amount. It's a green topaz from Brazil that was acquired in the 1990s. It's on loan by the Farouk family. So it's interesting to have something big and unusual for people just to say. And, you know, sometimes we refer to gemstones as doorknobs. This is a doorknob.
That is a very large doorknob. I would not have guessed that that was a topaz either. That's really something.
Nobody would. So it's that element of surprise for
Yeah.
all of those people that, you know, we always think we know everything, but then there's something that tells us we don't. And then, of course, just beautiful gem art. So another piece from the Somewhere in the Rainbow collection,
Wow.
beautiful zircon, natural Tennessee freshwater pearls. So we've
That's
just got
gorgeous.
a lot of opportunity. And again, it's all about our partnerships.
Mhm.
We have, of course, a very good relationship with Crown of Light, Almond Diamonds. They donated us a diamond bench from their New York facility, which is kind of exciting because I don't know that I'd actually physically ever seen a diamond cutting bench.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, then cool stuff like the cutting arms. They've donated a brooding machine. So we've got one whole set of cases where we talk about faceting, and we show not only the faceting machine, but the series of cuts, cabochons, series of cuts, diamond manufacture. We've got a bench, we've got arms, we've got brooding machines, gem carving. So we're really exciting to be able to show people how these things come about and how they differ.
That's amazing. And what an important part. And I feel like probably even a lot of us haven't seen that kind of stuff up close. So it's, I mean, it's such a big part of it, obviously. So it's so cool to get that into it. I mean, that's truly amazing. It's really special. So
And then
you
I'll say
mentioned
one last thing, and this
Okay.
one's a little harder to see. This is one of our cases for touch. So this is the Jade Case. So this will actually be in a wall cabinet beside a big ugly jade boulder. But then people will be able to touch and then just sort of get a feel for how things changed and how man's interpretation and artistic talents come into play.
Yeah, and seeing it up against the jade boulder, which I guess a lot of people probably wouldn't think it looked like, you know, seeing that transition is so cool. Such a big part of it.
Absolutely.
So you said that you thought you guys would be populated by the end of February. Once you're ready, where's Tucson at right now? Will you be able to open even at 25% capacity or?
You know, everything changes daily, and I know probably a lot of you, if you're following national news, Tucson has been said to have more cases per capita than anywhere in the world. I don't dispel that that's possible. You know, you have to consider too, a lot of areas of Tucson are basically uninhabited. So, and then the areas that are basically 3 to 5 major metropolitan areas. So of course the spread can be a lot more dominant. We don't know. That's why we are pushing along like we can open, and then when conditions are right, all we really have to do is unlock the door and welcome people in. So that's sort of my goal in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as of right now, I mean, you know, Tucson early February for the gem shows is obviously not really happening, but there are still a few planned for April as of now. So, you know, I think there's a lot up in the air. We'll see, but we're all very excited to get there. Before we sort of, you know, finish up with, I know you wanted to show some demos and throw it over to the audience. I just wanted to get your thoughts on, I feel like we've been hearing a lot of news about gem and mineral museums, renovations and new ones popping up and that kind of thing. So why do you think, why right now, and why is the time perfect for that kind of thing?
Sure. So for us, I mean, we've been waiting 15 years for the opportunity. The opportunity comes and you push forward. We've been fortunate because the U of A has been very proactive on COVID. They do a lot of research here and certainly the guidelines. We were one of the only capital projects the university allowed to continue during this year of COVID.
Oh, wow.
So we've been very good stewards of that, and we've pushed along as if COVID didn't exist. You know, both because we want to show that we appreciate the faith the university has in us. It's also that joint partnership with Pima County, who is very proactive and very involved in all of the guidelines to try to keep people safe as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it seems like, sort of overall, a very exciting time for gems and minerals. People are really interested. There's lots of new collections everywhere sort of coming onto display, lots of work happening. So we all can't wait for all of this. It's very exciting. So before we turn it over to the audience Q&A, I think Michelle's got some things for us. Did you just want to take us on a little bit of a walkthrough, change the background, and do some demos that you'd like to show us? Love to see some of that.
Sure, if it won't make people dizzy. I early owned some of these. Of course, they tend to make people dizzy as you walk through, but
yeah, that's makes me feel like I'm being active, so I like it.
So this is diamond cutting bench. And it's interesting because it's basically just a piece of steel. It's very crude looking. My understanding is a lot of these came out, this particular factory cut 5 carat and larger diamonds. So, it's easy to tell people maybe $5 billion worth of stones were cut. Of course, here's our 57-pound sapphire crystal. Sort of amazing labradorite with play of color. And then an incredible sort of pink and yellow labradorite, which was a one-time find, which is kind of cool. And then our jade boulder.
Wow, that's a big one.
And then just sort of an overview of what that gem gallery is intended to be. The back corner will have a pocket recreation with pink tourmaline and kunzite. Our optical bench.
This is where some of the hands-on things that you were telling us about.
Interactives, exactly.
Wow, that is so cool. Very cool. I think you're going to have a lot of people who are very interested in coming to play and maybe won't want to leave and get out of there.
Exactly.
What we want, right? So on that note, I think we have gotten a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it back over to Michelle, who's going to help facilitate that for us. Michelle, whenever you're ready.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Brecken. And thanks so much for that preview, Eric. It looks great. I can't wait to visit. And everybody in the comments, all of our attendees feel the same way. And I also want to say another thanks to our sponsor, RDI Diamonds. As a reminder, anyone that has questions, you can still type those into the Zoom Q&A box, and I'll try to get to as many as possible. I'm going to give people a minute here to ask some more questions, and I'm going to say a quick word about RDI Diamonds. RDI Diamonds, the selection you want, the quality you need. Thousands of diamonds, that's just the beginning. RDI offers a wide range of services and support to help you succeed, from flexible memo options to a partnership with De Beers Group Industry Services to generous stock options and cost-efficient shipping. RDI's goal is to provide the highest quality of both care and diamonds to your store. Visit rdidiamonds.com today to learn more. That is rdidiamonds.com. So now I'm going to get started with our listener questions. We got kind of the same version of one question several times. So I'm going to start with this one. People want to know if they want to learn, if they want to loan jewelry, loan specimens, how can they get in touch with you? And one particular gentleman, and I will share this with you. Eric, you can grab it out of the chat. I've also grabbed it in case you don't see it. One gentleman shared his email. How do they get in touch with you to loan jewelry, specimens, et cetera, to the museum?
Sure, and that's very exciting. I can send our link to or you can just do a Google search of Alfie Norville Gem and Mineral Museum. We have 2 web pages currently, so it's a little confusing. All of the contact comes straight to me personally. So feel free to call, email, whatever's more convenient. But we anticipate changing out 20% per year. So we are very eager to borrow and have donations coming in so we can keep this fresh. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. And Eric, if there's a link you want to drop in the chat, you can feel free to get in there. If there's a link to, you mentioned there's a couple websites, if there's a specific link you want to share, you can put it in there if you want. And someone else wants to know, and this is actually something, Eric, I asked you before we went on the air, what is in your bolo tie?
Great question. So this is Larimar, and it was done by a local Hopi artist. And the four smaller stones are ruby, citrine, aqua, and moonstone. It's very important to their culture. It refers to the four directions or the four winds. Brecken and I are also Tar Heels, so it's the Carolina blue color.
Had
Love
to
that.
get that in there.
That makes my day. Thank you, Eric.
Somebody else wanted to know, and I think the answer to this is no, but there's no official opening date scheduled right now, correct?
It's just too unknown at this
Yeah.
point. Just follow us, and you'll know when we know. And I think it'll be. We're doing everything we can. We're doing the paperwork for the university on how we open safe. We'll do the smart safe through Pima County. We'll be ready to open long before we can. So one day we'll just be able to open the door.
Okay. And somebody just shared in the chat a link to gemandmineralmuseum.arizona.edu. So thank you very much for sharing that for people who want to know more about loaning specimens or loaning jewelry to the museum. Someone else wants to know, will you be set up to hold events and be a venue to rent once the pandemic is over? I guess for weddings or parties or different jewelry industry events. It really would make a cool space.
Absolutely. So part of our partnership with Pima County, there is adjacent to our lobby, 110 seat auditorium, which is a multi-purpose room. It can be set up for lectures up to 110. It can be set up for dining for up to 50. And of course, the most amazing thing about Tucson and this location is the outside courtyard. We had been approached to host some events during the gem show, which of course got canceled. I won't spoil it and say who they were with. But we can seat over 300 out in the courtyard, which is just a fabulous space. Both for the industry and for other events, we plan to make our museum space available. It's a great place to peruse while having cocktails and hors d'oeuvres as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And of course, Arizona is a fabulous place to be outside right now. Somebody want to know how much of the overall collection will be on display and how often will you rotate items? And I think you just said you're going to rotate out 20% of your collection every year. So how much of the overall collection will be on display?
Sure, great question. We have our mineral collection is about 20,000 pieces. Not all, of course, are museum quality for display. We also have a research collection of about 20,000 pieces, which on the surface you would think would not be appropriate to display, but we've named probably 30 minerals from the U of A. So we featured about 8 of those in the exhibit. They're typically small, which require micro photography, but to show a micro photograph and a specimen side by side blows people's minds. So some of those are available. Currently, each gallery has about 750 objects in it. So we've got about 2,300 on display. And I would say over half of those are actual loans. So we want to show the most variety as well as the best that we can. So it's a culmination of loans, donations, and our collection as well. And again, 20% a year, I think probably if anyone from the museum world is dialed in today, they're saying, yeah, right. For us, it's job security. Everybody in our interviews, it's like, we'll have a job forever if we're able to pull this off and be successful at it.
Awesome. Thank you. Somebody wants to know, will the museum have educational webinars? A great question, considering how much of our lives is going to be continuing to happen online for the foreseeable future.
I would say yes. Certainly, we would like to do that on an ongoing basis. Knowing that currently we have 2 employees. We're in the process of hiring 3 more. We're going to focus on getting the museum populated, getting a good handle on our collection, and certainly post-COVID, we would definitely be doing webinars. In the meantime, we may be a little busy, but we'll see.
Yeah, I can't believe you're doing all that with 2 employees.
Depends on how long it lasts, right?
It's crazy.
Do what you have to do, you know?
Yeah, we certainly understand that at National Jeweler, don't we, Brecken?
That's absolutely right. Yes. We have some.
We have some familiarity with that. We have a couple people who want some details about the GEM Science program at the University of Arizona. Is there just a website we can send people to for that, or I think there's probably a lot of details about that. Unless there are a few quick things you can share, Eric.
Sure, I can give you an overview of that. This past year, there was a professor hired to oversee the GEM Science program. As I mentioned, we anticipate providing instruction in the practical aspects here at the museum. The program, I think, is due to launch at least a sort of introduction to GEM Science fall of 2021, so coming up very quickly. It's still in development, of course, and realizing that this is a brand new concept, we're trying to sort of interface empirical hard science with a practical GEM knowledge that all of us are familiar with, of course. And I think it's going to take a little time to meld those together and to realize that, ultimately we need more than the GEM trade certifications, but, on the other end of the spectrum, it can't be all empirical science. It has to be a marriage. So I think, we'll go through a courtship for the next couple of years, if you will, and just kind of see how that unfolds. It's going to be a big learning curve for all of us. We've certainly offered our support from the museum, but I think that people would be able to see probably the course catalog would be updated this summer. They could go to the geoscience department and send inquiries to Ananya Malik, who is the endowed chair, the real endowed chair in GEM Science.
Okay, and we've also had someone drop a little link in here. That was an update on more information on that. I'm going to share that now with all panelists and attendees. There we go, so everyone can see that. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for joining us today. And Brecken, thanks so much for hosting. I believe that is all our questions. So you can tune in for another episode of My Next Question. We will be back next Tuesday. That's January 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about fine jewelry trends in the new year, which I think will be well attended. Senior Editor Ashley Davis is going to host that, and she's going to have 3 guests. Beanie Major, the founder of In Detail, Randy Malofsky, co-founder of Showroom for Future Reference, and public relations consultant Jen Cullen-Williams. Again, that should be a good one. And that is next Tuesday, January 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. I've just dropped a link in the chat. You can read about that and our other upcoming webinars there. And thanks again to our sponsor, RDI Diamonds today. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. And please take care of yourselves.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks.